everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cap at Home. My name's Miss Allie, and today we are going to be making these awesome paper symmetry sculptures. And so I have mine hanging. I have some fun string here. And so today we're going to be focusing on a few different things. So symmetry, so meaning things are balanced and the same on all sides. Balance, contrast with color, and line. So we have some really cool options today, and this is one of those projects that looks really cool, but it's actually really easy to make. So what we are going to need today is some paper. So I have a bunch of strips already cut out, but I would suggest having 5 to 6 different colors of paper. If you only have white paper, then you can utilize markers, crayons, or colored pencils to add some color and pattern to make each one different. We're also going to need a stapler, glue stick, and some tape. And if you only have 1 or 2 of those things, that's fine. We can make that work. You're also going to need some scissors, a paper clip, and some string if you want to make it hanging. You don't have to, but I think they look really cool if you hang them from the ceiling. Alright, let's get started. So the first thing that you need to do is take your full sheet of colored paper and you need to cut it into between 2 and 3 inch widths. So I actually have some already prepared for the sake of time, but I have a few already cut out, and so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different colors, and you can usually get about 2 or 3 strips out of a normal piece of construction paper. And so I just measure on my paper 2 to 3 inches across, and then I just go ahead and cut that. And if you need an adult to help you measure or cut them, always ask for help. So you want to make sure you have 2 of each color, and I'll show you why. So after you have all your strips colored, again, I suggest like 5 to 6 different colors. Then we have to pick a middle color. So I like picking a dark color for the middle. If you have black construction paper, this is a really good time for that. And this is the only time where you only need 1 strip of paper. So if I have my black piece of paper, I'm going to lay it all out first. So I'm going to set my black piece of paper down right here. So this is my middle. So everything all the colors that I choose, I have to do 1 on this side and 1 on this side because it's going to be even, symmetrical. So the same thing on both sides. So let's say I want to do, you can do this a couple different ways. You could do contrasting colors. So that means if you had, maybe you wanted to do blue and then yellow next to it. So a dark color and a light color. So utilizing your cool and warm colors. Or you could do sort of like a gradient, so you could start with light colors and get darker, or start with dark colors and get lighter. So I kind of like that idea. I'm going to start with, I have some purple here. So again, I'm going to do 1 purple on each side. And then I'm going to go with this dark blue. And then I'm going to go with this green. And again, I'm laying it out. And then I'm going to go pink. And last, yellow. So yellow will be my top and bottom color. So if you see on my example here, pink is my top and bottom color. And purple on the inside here is the color that's closest to my middle. So in this case, I chose gray. So now that I have it all laid out, I want to stack it. So my yellows are at the end, so I'm going to start on one side, pick up yellow, pink, green, blue, purple, kind of doing like a rainbow here. Then black is my middle. And then I'm going to do the opposite. So purple on both sides, blue, green, pink, yellow. So it's the same on all sides. So it's going to be balanced. And so if you look at it, it goes in order. So it's the same direction. So now that I have this all together, I need to staple these together. So a trick to doing this, what I like to do to make sure it stays in place while we're stapling them together is actually take a small piece of masking tape or painter's tape, any kind of tape that you have. So I stack them up like this, and I actually just add a small piece of tape right here in the middle. And the reason I do this is to make sure they stay together when I try and staple it. And if you want to check for the middle, you can always fold your paper in half. See this middle crease that I just got? You can take a pencil and mark that if you want. So this is the middle of your paper. So now what you want to do is take your stapler, and you're going to make at least 3 staples in the middle on that folded line. So you might have to press down kind of hard. You can also, if you don't have a stapler, you can also just use your tape to do this. Alright, so I'm taking my tape off to add my staple there on top. I have 2. I'm going to do the other side. Alright, so now I have my paper, my stack of strips of paper. And I have my staples in the middle. So now what we want to do is actually start sculpting our paper. So this is where we can utilize line. And we can do a bunch of different things with our paper. The only rule is that you have to do the same thing on all sides. So let's say on our yellow piece of paper, we want to accordion fold it. So that means on every yellow piece of paper, we have to do an accordion fold. So let's say I like doing the accordion fold at the top because I think that's the easiest way to hang our paper. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that. And you could do big folds, small folds. There's a lot of different ways that you can create different lines with your paper. So I'm just taking the time to make my folds, crease them in, like so. And whatever I do on one side, I have to do to the other. So symmetry, equal on both sides. So this is the part of the project that'll probably take the most time, is really making sure you get all of your strips the way that you want them and creating really different ways. And so I'm going to show you a couple different techniques that you can make. But if I don't mention something and you have an idea for something, go ahead and use that. There are no rules except doing it on both sides. So we have our first strip. So now what I want to do is kind of push that aside. Now we got to decide what to do with the next one. So what you can do is, if you wanted, let's say you wanted to curl it, you could do that. You could cut this into strips. You could cut this into chunks. You could draw on your colored paper if you wanted and then do something to it. Whatever you think of could be cool. So I might actually take my scissors and kind of cut this into 3 parts. So like this. Again, whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. All right. So now what I might do is actually take a pencil or a marker and make some curls. So I'm wrapping my paper, my strips, my slabs of paper that I just cut, and making curls out of them by wrapping it around my pencil. And I like doing them in, like, cutting it up and then doing it, because that way each of them could be different lengths. So that's why, so if I wanted to do it like this, I'll show you in just a second. See? Just like that. So now again, same thing on the other side. And you want to make it as even as possible. So you might have to keep pushing your first strip of paper out of the way. That's okay. All right. So I'm just using my pencil to make some curls. And so I did the same thing on both sides. All right. So now what I want to do, let's say you like really cutting your paper. So let's say I take my next color and I'm just going to cut a bunch of small strips out of it. So it's kind of like making fringe. Being careful not to cut any of the other pieces of paper. So let's say my next color is green and I have some fringe here. And you could even bend some of them if you wanted. Kind of make them look funky. Almost looks like grass when it's green fringe. And I'm going to do the same on this side. The hardest part is just keeping your other paper that you had just finished out of your way. So again, take your time, don't rush. And really spend some time picking out your colors too. That's kind of an important part of this. So I'm just kind of crunch them. So far, this is what we have. So I have 2 more colors before I get to my middle one. So I like to do, let's see, what's another thing that we can do? Let's see. You could always cut the top part or the edge of one of your papers. So let's say you wanted to make sort of like this triangle shape. You could do that. Do that on both sides. You could leave it flat, but I don't recommend doing that because I think it looks cooler the more patterns and lines that you use. I'm just kind of brushing those away. And then maybe I'll do an accordion fold, but this one I'll make kind of bigger folds. So, kind of like this. Again, like I said, the hardest part is just moving your other papers out of your way. So if you need help just keeping the papers aside, you can also just ask anyone that's around you to maybe hold them up while you're doing it. So, this is where we're at. And we have one more color to do, and I think this is kind of a fun one to do. Is kind of make these sort of loops. And that kind of makes it stick up a little bit. So what you can do is take a glue stick, glue the edge of your strip, and you're actually going to glue down that edge like so. So you're gluing it so it's coming forward. So it kind of makes your other papers stand up a little bit. So that's why I kind of like doing that one, at least towards the middle, right above our middle piece. And I always kind of bend them up a little. Like that. So it kind of makes it stick up a little bit more. So I think this looks really cool as a top half. So now we have to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. And another thing I recommend is if you're going to make a hanging part, then like I said, my accordion fold I think is the easiest one to do on top. Then you can even just glue these together so these stay together. Like that. So now we have to do the same thing on the other side. So this is the tricky part. So not only do we have to watch on this side and see what we did on top, but we also have to be careful not to squish our designs. And even if you do, since you already folded it with paper, we can go ahead and refold it. So it's really not a big deal. But again, I want to make sure I have the same type of fold. So yellow, I did sort of a really tight accordion fold. So that's what I'm going to do. So it's sort of like each piece of paper you're doing the same sort of fold or design 4 times because your strips are divided in half and there's 2 of them. So it's kind of like whatever you do, you have to do it 4 times. So again, like I said, if you wanted to decorate your strips first, if you wanted to add some designs with crayons, markers, or colored pencils before you did something with them, you could do that as well. And that's also a really good alternative for if you only have white paper. That's a really good way to remedy that problem. So I have my accordion fold. My pink one, I had cut into 3 strips, and then I rolled those. So I'm going to take my scissors, cut into 3. So again, you can see kind of how I'm moving it. It gets a little tricky, so it's always okay to ask for help for someone around. Do that, and I'm going to take my pencil, and I'm kind of gently setting my paper down. I'm not trying to squish it. And I'm going to take my pencil and roll. Nope, I'm going to make this one go a little bit further in so it stays more even with the other one. There we go. So this is, again, what really takes a long time, is really designing how you want to make your, kind of sculptural part, designing your lines of your paper sculpture. But it looks really cool the more time you spend on it, so I definitely recommend doing that. And the more colors that you add, the more interesting and intricate patterns you can get. So don't be afraid to use like 6 or 7 different colors. Really get interesting with it. So again, my green one is where I'm doing my fringe, so I'm just taking my paper, being careful not to cut my other strips, adding some small cuts in here to make some fringe-like pattern. And these are just a couple things that I'm showing you how to do today. If you have a different idea that I have not mentioned, totally go for it. All right. So I have some fringe here, and so like I did on my other one, I'm going to kind of bend them, kind of get them a little crazy, so it almost, I think, kind of looks like grass, but that's cool. All right, bend them, and so now my blue one, on this side, I had made a couple triangle shapes, and I'm going to try and do that as well on this side. So again, I'm just going to kind of make my triangle cuts there. Set those aside. And I did sort of like a bigger accordion fold, so there's not as many folds there. So I'm going to do that. So it kind of does the same thing on the other side. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. Making really balanced and equal. But since you are doing the same thing on both sides, that's why I think it's really cool to use as many patterns, colors as you can. So the closer you get to the end, the harder it gets to maneuver your paper. So you might have to kind of play with it for a minute. And if you have to refold some stuff at the end, that's totally okay. It gets a little funky there. Alright, and my last one was making that purple loop. So I go ahead and glue my purple, the edge of my purple. So again, if you can see it, I'm kind of holding it funky. I'm trying not to squish the paper, at the same time trying to create the same effect. And so when you do these loops, it's also really helpful to try and line it up with the paper on the other side. So like this, let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. So I'm trying to line up this paper, this purple loop here, with the other side of the purple loop. So again, that black one is the only piece of paper, didn't glue very well. That black piece is the only piece of paper that you only have one color because it shows the middle. That's kind of the divide where it starts to become symmetrical. Same on the other side. So I have that loop. I'm going to do the same on the other side. This last purple, my last part. Okay. Kind of match it up. Squish the paper down really good. Kind of bend that purple up so it kind of creates that lift. And here's the other side. I'm just going to move these around. So here's the other side. So same on both sides. So then this is where if you need to move things around a little bit, rebend a few things, you can do that. And I glue these top parts together. I just think the accordion fold is the easiest to do on the end. So that way you can bend, you can move things around, but it is the same on both sides. So now you have this really cool paper sculpture, and you can make it hanging if you want. So you can take a paper clip, bend the top part off, choose which side you want to be the top. So if you wanted this as the top or the other side, poke a little hole through the top of your paper. You can also ask for an adult's help if you need help with this. And then I kind of run my paper clip through it a little bit so it goes at the end. Then my paper clip back in. So now I've made a hanging part of it. And then you can take a piece of string, yarn, wire, anything that you have available to you, fishing line. I have this kind of funky looking string, and I'm just going to thread this through the paper clip. And you can tie these together. And now you can tie this, and this is an easy way to decorate your room, classroom, anything at home. It kind of makes a really fun, interesting, symmetrical paper sculpture because it's the same on both sides. And if you wanted to, this middle part, you could also cut that out and make that an interesting shape if you didn't want that to be a plain strip as well. So now you have these really cool hanging paper sculptures, and they all look different, so the more designs that you can use, the better. So that is how we make our paper sculpture. I gotta make sure to clean up, so if you used markers to decorate or a glue stick, make sure those have caps on them. If you cut out any paper, you want to make sure you throw your paper scraps away. If you have leftover strips of paper, you want to set those aside and save them for another Cap at Home project. And when you are all done, you can use your hanging, you can decorate your house or anywhere with your hanging symmetrical paper sculptures. So that is our project for today. Thank you for watching and joining me. And make sure to stay tuned for 1 and 2 p.m. today for some more Cap at Home projects, as well as Thursday at 12, 1, and 2 p.m. And if you're always looking for more projects, all of our videos are posted on our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channel, so make sure to check out all of our videos. And if you make your own paper symmetrical sculpture, I would love to see what you made. Go ahead and post a comment, post a picture in the comments of this video of what you made, or you can even email it to us with the email provided in the written portion of this post. I'd love to see what you made. Thanks for watching and checking us out, and I will see you next time.